What's up, everyone? So, I've recently been on a bit of a TV surge as of recently, where basically I have just been not playing games at all, and I've just been sitting down and watching a load of TV shows. And one TV show that I was able to finish the whole first season of within, I think, about 3 days is Blindspot. I started watching it on last Sunday, and I just finished it this Tuesday, so I managed to watch all 23 episodes within 3 days because I had literally nothing else to do. I didn't go on my PS4 or anything. I just literally tried to burn through the whole first season, which I did, and now I'm going to do my review for it because obviously season 2 actually comes out later this month. I believe it's in like 2 or 3 weeks, so not long to go. So I think this is the perfect time to do my review for the first season. Now don't worry, this is a spoiler-free review, so there'll be no spoilers for the first season, because I accept that quite a few people probably may not have watched it, and also I do know one of my friends, who is watching it probably at this time, so I obviously won't want to spoil it for them. But with that being said, let's get straight into it. So, the premise of Blindspot, it is about a woman called Jane Doe who wakes up in the middle of Times Square in a carrier bag. She's completely covered in tattoos everywhere on her body, and she also has amnesia, so she doesn't know who she is, because the name Jane Doe is basically one that they make up for her. And then, upon further inspection of the tattoos, it turns out that the biggest tattoo on her body is one that has the name of an FBI agent on it called Kurt Weller, who's kind of the main protagonist of the series. And upon the FBI doing more investigation of her tattoos, it turns out that they're actually related to crimes that are going to be happening very soon in New York. And while they try and stop these crimes, they also have to try and decipher who put these tattoos on Jane before, obviously, she went into that bag and obviously got amnesia that took away her memory. A simple way to sum up the premise of this show is basically Bourne meets Memento. It's simply like that, because obviously the memory wipe, tattoos on the body, and things like that. That's what I've heard a lot of people compare this to. But I would honestly compare this show quite a fair bit to the following, and I know it's quite of a weird comparison, because if you've watched both shows, you might think at first there's no similarities between them, but I felt like in the tone it was going for, I mean, the fact that you obviously have this one person who's connected to all these ongoing crimes and murder sprees that are going to be happening, it's kind of the same premise, but also I believe it shares the same executive producer as the guy who made The Following, I'm pretty sure, and I think some guy who was like a lead figure on the DC TV universe, you know, like Arrow, The Flash, I'm pretty sure he's working on it as well. And I think the premise is obviously very unique, because I don't think I've really seen anything like it. I mean, obviously, like I said, yeah, it is kind of like Bourne meets Memento, but it went in a completely different direction to what I originally thought it was going to. So I'm happy that they did that. And yeah, it is a cool premise of the show, and it's definitely what made me very interested in going to watch it. So let's get into the positives and negatives. So we're going to start with the positives first. The first positive is probably going to be the characters, because they are by far the best part of the whole show, and how the story is able to unravel, you know, these characters' past, in particular, obviously, Jane Doe's, because she's essentially the main focus of the story, is trying to discover who she was before, obviously, the events of the show. And how they uncover that and the stuff you learn about her character is really good. Like, it completely caught me off guard. You know, some of the stuff that we learn about her, it's really, really good. And learning all the connections that she has, and, you know, all the secret things that she knew beforehand, it was really, really cool to find that out. But also the characters and the acting in it is very, very good. I mean, you've got Jamie Alexander, she plays the main character of obviously Jane Doe. She does a really good job at the role. I'd never heard of her beforehand, and she was pretty good. You have Sullivan Sebastian, I believe that's his name, who plays Kurt Weller. He is very good as well. His character does seem kind of, you know, stereotypical at first, but as the show goes on, he has developed a lot more as a character, and I really did like how they actually put the effort in to try and, you know, flesh his character out, because if you watch the first few episodes, you think, oh, it's just a normal FBI agent, but eventually you do learn a lot more about him, and it does become a lot more of an intriguing character. And I want to give an honorable shout out to Ashley Johnson because obviously, if you don't know who she is, basically the voice of Ellie in The Last of Us, she's actually on this show, and I had no clue when I first went into it that she was actually on it. But upon watching the show, she's actually really good in this. Because she plays like the computer hacker whose job is essentially to decipher Jane's tattoos, but she goes on a really big story arc throughout like the whole series, in particular the second half. And I really liked her character, and I didn't even know she could act, in TV this amazing. I mean, I knew she was a great voice actress, but to actually see her like act on a TV show was really, she was really impressive. And I'm definitely psyched to see what else she does, because I mean, she was really good in the show. And of course, there are other people as well, but I'm not going to try and dig into every single cast member because the acting overall was very good. I really like the style of the show as well, like the cinematography and how it had like a very cinematic feel to it. I don't think it's like the most cinematic of shows because obviously obviously there's ad breaks in it, so I mean, there's the random cuts in it. But I really liked how it was shot. It was very well done. The action set pieces, like where they have the shootouts, were really well filmed, and so were the hand-to-hand combat fights. They were really good. Really good choreography. They don't really last that long. They're like quite short, really. But what I liked, but at least that's a good thing because they're not like in your face, or they don't feel like unrealistically dragged out just to like try and satisfy you because you just want massively long fist fights. But I liked how they kept it short, and it was really good. The action was. And I also liked seeing the different tactics that they would use to stop the criminals, and also the criminals' techniques that they try and use to stop them. Some of them are actually kind of cool, and it was just so funny because there's particular one episode in the second half where there's this guy who just seems like an absolute douchebag, but then upon the end of the episode you have to read everything you learnt about him beforehand because of his plan. It was really cool. And I guess the plot was good, but there were some times where I did think, obviously, the plot did drag off, but overall I thought the plot was very good when we learned more about Jane's past. That was, I felt that was really good. I didn't think it was the best thing because there were some parts of it that I didn't like, and I guess that turns us over nicely to the negatives that I had with the season one. And to get into them, the big negative I have with the show is I kind of felt like some of the episodes were a bit repetitive in how they were structured, and it would always be, there was like a set of episodes where literally the only thing that happened for me in it was they obviously uncover a new tattoo, stop a crime. Jane Doe has to say, "Oh, they are the last hope I have to finding my identity." They do the thing, they either kill them or don't, and then you've got Mayfair, who's the head of the FBI, who will always sit them down at the end and be like, "Okay, day's over, go home." But it was like the complete same structure for all the episodes, and I don't know if it was just me, but it got so boring, to be honest. Like, especially when I was binge watching this as well. It was really noticeable because it was just back-to-back, same episode structure. I mean, the plot isn't terrible, but it's just the structure around it. It just felt way too similar per episode. And it just really did get old. I mean, they do change up, like in particular episode 10, really changed it up. And then, like, the few episodes after that, they did. But then it starts to become the same thing eventually. I'm not going to spoil how it, becomes the same thing later on in the season because it is kind of a spoiler, so I won't say anything about it. But if you're watching the show, you may or may not understand what I mean by this, but it just became noticeable to me that the same episodes kept on having, the same pattern, if you want to put it that way. And the last negative that I have, and I know it's a small gripe, but it's just, it's really a big nuisance that I have with shows, and that is the CGI. No offense, but when the CGI is used in this, it is not exactly that great. Like, there is episode 11 where they are in a plane, and you can so clearly tell that this plane is completely made out of CGI. It is just so obvious, and I mean, I don't hate CGI, but when it's this obvious, and it really annoys me. Like, there's this CGI, which is like really average CGI, and then you have like CGI in something, say like Banshee, where I'm going to describe this to you now. There is a sequence in Banshee where Hood is literally like running up like a motorway full of cars, and then there's a bus that topples and runs towards him. That whole sequence was filmed with CGI, and when I watched that the first time, I genuinely thought that was practical up until the bus point. The fact that all of those cars were CGI blew my mind. When I look at this sequence and several others in the show, I can so clearly tell that this is CGI. It's just so blatantly obvious, and it's not really that good. I mean, some of the explosion CGI is pretty good, but then just when you have this sort of stuff, it really puts me out the experience. And I know it's a small gripe, but it just annoys me so much. But really, they're the only two problems that I had with the show. Other than that, I really did feel like Blindspot is a very, very good show, and I definitely think it's worth your time. So now time for the final verdict for Blindspot. I'm going to give Blindspot an 8 out of 10. I don't think it's as good as the following, because it's probably the show that I can compare it to the most. I don't think it's as good as that. I don't think it's as good as a few other, crime, drama, thrillers kind of shows, but I do think it's good at what it tries to do, and I would definitely recommend, if you're a fan of these, if those kind of TV shows, then yeah, I would definitely give Blindspot a watch, considering also that Season 2 is literally just around the corner, so yeah, definitely would recommend it. And that is it for my review of Blindspot Season 1. I hope you enjoyed it. Give me a thumbs up if you liked the video, and yeah, definitely go and check it out. It's a very, very good series, and yeah, hope to see you again next time.